All right, a very good morning wherever you are watching us from the 28th of July 2022. Welcome to CAC TV Partnership Week. This is Legal Thursday, where we are going to talk matters to do with law, justice, and legal affairs, of course, for the benefit of educating you and informing you of the laws that govern you. We'll be having different discussions on matters to do with law, trying to understand different aspects of the law in regards to the family law. We'll also be talking about the commercial laws. What is in commercial law? Businesses and the laws that govern businesses, the laws that govern property purchase, and the laws that govern contracts. Of course, that is something that we'll be sampling in our discussion and subsequent discussion in the course of the day. And of course, we'll also be talking matters to do with family laws, talking about family laws. It is a wide law that involves the children's law, the marriage laws, the divorce laws. We'll be talking about them, as well as the succession laws, which is part of the family law. We'll also be trying to evaluate that for you to get informed and understand matters to do with law this Legal Thursday. And we'll also be having discussion on matters to do with the music and copyright laws. What do you understand? What do you know about copyright laws? What do you know about when you take a photograph? How should you handle that particular photograph so that you continue to remain the owner of that photograph for the many years that the photo will be circulating? That is what we'll be talking about, trying to understand matters to do with copyright. And also we'll also measure in with music laws. Of course, there's been cries of someone claiming that their music have been misused by a certain agency or different people. We'll also be trying to understand what does the law say when you get your music out. That is our discussion that will be coming later on in the day. We'll also be talking on matters to do with property purchase. What do you know about purchasing a property? It is so regular to purchase a property, but do you understand the legal procedures and the legal processes of handling property? We'll be talking about that as well, and trying to educate you, inform you, and help you and learn new laws that govern you. We'll also be talking on matters to do with the alternative dispute resolution. Every time you hear there is a dispute, all eyes turn on the court, but unknowingly there is other alternatives that people can pursue to seek justice, as well as to seek contention of what is in dispute. But that is what we'll also be trying to evaluate in this hour, trying to take you step by step on what alternative dispute resolution means, and what are the alternative dispute resolutions that you can pursue apart from going to the court for the normal process of filing a case. That is something that we'll be talking about in this particular hour. But the bigger of all is the family law. The family law is one of the huge laws that has been governing what goes in daily. And in regards to that, I'm talking about the family law carrying the children's law, or the Children Act in the particular law, as well as the divorce, marriage processes. All that is packaged in the family law. I just want us to begin this morning in talking about matters to do with the children law, and that is the children law is very important because it is part of the family law, and in every aspect of family law, the children law also acts in that capacity. And one of the major parts of the children's law is in regards to do with the custody. When parents, or rather when family break, who remains to be the custody of those particular children? That is part of the children law, as well as child adoption is part of the is the most commonly practiced aspect of the children's law. And this morning there is so much to talk about in regards to that, and I want us to measure on the child adoption process. Of course, it's something that I brought to you a few weeks ago, or rather a few months ago, in regards to how can you be able to adopt a child? How does that process entail, and where do you begin? That is something that has been asked so many times. People wanting to adopt, but they don't know where to begin. That is what we call children's law that guides the process under the family law. So what is the process like for one to adopt a child. I had a discussion with an adoption agency as well as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and we were able to talk out the entire process in regards to what is the process like for one to adopt their child. That is what we discussed, and I just wanted us to take a glimpse of what we defined in that particular discussion of the child adoption process.
Begins with the adoption agency. You need to visit an adoption society. When you come to office, we'll be able to meet with you, understand your background, your social background, and then give you application forms to go fill. When you're done with filling the forms, you'll come back with the forms and we'll do an interview and counseling, pre-adoption counseling, which is very important for the process, and then table your matter at the case committee. A case committee is a group of different professions that's appointed by every society that sit to vet your profile, and they can decide to defer, reject, or approve. So that is the initial stage of adoption. After that, we go to the post-approval stage, in case you've been approved. Then we start looking for a child for you, match you with a child as soon as we get one, and communicate that match to you. If the match is successful, you bond with the child in an institution. Most of the institutions give a bonding period of 2 weeks. Bond with the child for 2 weeks, then take the baby home and stay with the child for 3 compulsory fostering months as provided by the law. And then after the 3 months are done, you begin the legal process.
Now, after the adoption agencies have gone through their process and they have now declared a child free for adoption, and the child is now, you've gone through that 3-month fostering period, then applications are made to the court. So applications are made through a prescribed format. So there's applications that are made to the High Court. And once the court now considers your applications, you're given a hearing date. So the hearing date is given according to the availability of the court diary. When the matter comes up for hearing, then the court does go on and give interviews to the specific people who are involved in this entire adoption process. That would be the parents who are trying to adopt the child. There is the guardians, who are the ones who are the guardians to the child. Yeah, so we'll go through that, I think, a bit later. There's also the adoption agencies who also have to come to court and give their take on the matter. There's also the children's services, which is the government children's services, who will also have to do a report on how, or rather if they see that the adoption should proceed. So all of these people are interviewed by the court, and the court does finally make the decision whether or not it is okay for the parents who wish to adopt the child. Once the court does agree, then an adoption order is given, which the lawyer will now proceed to extract and proceed to now serve upon the different agencies, who will now go through the process of verification of the adoption order, and then you take it to the people who do the certificates of birth, yeah, and then you will eventually obtain a new birth certificate that has the name of the child and the name of the adoptive parents as the parents of that child. Most of the people who go through adoption processes are actually very caring, nurturing people who actually genuinely want to adopt children because of different reasons, yeah. But adoptions are usually done by people who have been found fit and who are really genuinely looking to get a child, yeah. So issues of torture are criminal issues that the government will take very stern action against you for, and but in terms of the adoption and reversal of the adoption, that's not possible.
All right, and that is what we were able to discuss in regards to the child adoption process, the children's law guiding that particular process, and different children acts guiding that particular process as well. You've heard from the experts, they are talking about, when you want to adopt a child, then you have to begin at the initial process of the adoption agency, who then get your request and then are able, to determine what kind of a child you need to adopt. Then they receive that information, then they look for that child and give back you the information. In case you're contented with that particular child, then you have to go through a period of scrutiny and a period of also bonding with the child before you also given a mandatory 1 month that you go and bond with the child. Then the agency can be able to evaluate, despite you liking the child, does the child like you, or rather is the child comfortable living with you? That is what the agency now evaluates. And once that process is done, then it gets into the legal process where now the process goes to court, being guided by different acts and different laws that govern that particular process. Then at the end of the day, you're able to adopt a child. You heard from the experts talking about a maximum of 2 years for you to be able to adopt a child. That entire process, or in good days in court, then it can take you 1.5 years for child adoption. That is matters to do with the children laws under the family law. I want us to talk about something else, of course, under the family law. That is what we call marriage. Marriage has been defined in different aspects. People will define marriage in different aspects, and there is a contention of what sums up to be marriage. But the Kenyan law is very clear, and from 2014, the Act of Parliament that initiated what marriage should be in the Kenyan law, and that law enacted in 2017 after an allowance of 3 years that was given to Kenyans to be able to fall under the marriage definition of the law. And once that time elapsed, then that is what the Kenyan law now recognize as marriage. There is a discussion I also had with an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Kevin Doho. We were able to break down the marriage process here in the country. But apart from what is considered by many people to be marriage, what exactly is marriage? This is what he had to say about that. We define under the law, what is marriage?
Marriage under the laws is the union of a man and a woman for life. That is the old definition of marriage, as we got it from the colonialists. But it was also the union of a man maybe to several women, according to various customary laws that we have in Kenya, basically based on the number or the tribes we have in Kenya and how those tribes define what is marriage. For the Quran, it has its own definition, that is a Muslim marriage. The Hindus, they have their own definition of marriage, and that is marriage also. But ideally, a Christian setup where we are in the Commonwealth of Nations under the United Kingdom, the definition of marriage is the union of a man and a woman for life. Yes. Or the various types of marriages, each type of marriage has its own laws. So for us here in Kenya, we usually do not have other types of marriage, for example, gay marriage or various... you can have a woman trying to marry many men. That's not something that is recognized in Kenya. But for each one, there is a definition. For statutory marriage, it is a union of a man and a wife for life. For traditional marriage, it's a union of a man, maybe to one wife or to several wives, according to the customs of that tradition. If it's Hindu marriage, they have their own setup. If it is Muslims, it's the union of a man to a woman for life, but the man is allowed up to four wives. So that union is for life. It does not, you cannot have it after death. So we have not yet been able to define that relationship after death, but we have other types of marriage that are outside the law. So we are in a state of flux. We had a review of our laws. In 2014, we have now one marriage act. Before that, we had several marriage acts, like the Marriage Act, the African Christian Marriage Act. We had the Hindu Marriage Act, the Mohammedan Marriage Act. We had the cultural ones were not codified really. They were just recognized as customary marriages.
What is presumption of marriage?
Presumption of marriage has three elements: cohabitation, well-known, and they behave as husband and wife in such a way that society has accepted this is this person's husband, this is this person's wife. They live in the same house, they have children, they basically go everywhere together, they do things together. It's what society has already established. It is not something that is backed up by any paper or any ceremony or anything. So for example, if you move from here, maybe you go to live in London, basically you'll be going there with your wife. So those people will be looking at you and saying, this is Mr. Macharia, this is Mrs. Macharia. They don't need to see your marriage certificate. And that kind of society where people just accept this is this person's wife and this is this person's husband, that is presumption. However, the problem that the law has with the presumption is when there is a dispute. For example, the husband dies and leaves property, and basically there is a dispute between the wife who the man married in church and this other wife whom nobody knows. So you find the law has tried to create a solution by saying, yes, you married under the Marriage Act at that time, which prohibited a man from marrying another woman. But this man left this wife of his who he married under the Marriage Act, and for over 30, 40 years he's been living with this other woman, had other children. So it will be unjust to say that they were not married. So that is now presumption. So the court will now presume. In the Marriage Act is now presumption. Presumption exists outside the Marriage Act, and mostly it exists under the circumstance of the law of succession. So basically you are in a very unsafe area if you're trying to live under presumption. It's time, as Parliament has said, it's time Kenyans put their house in order. They were given a 3-year deadline from 2014. So the 3 years was lapsing in 2017. From then on, Parliament presumes that every person who's married has a certificate.
All right, and that is the advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Kevin Doe, who is a family lawyer as well, and has a vast experience in matters to do with family law, talking about the marriage process here in Kenya. And you've heard from that particular last statement that has come out clearly is the presumption of marriage. If you do not follow what is stipulated in the Kenyan law in regards to marriage, then at some point the court can try to presume that in one case or the other you are married, but then that particular presumption of marriage is not recognized by the law. It only applies in circumstances that the court now seek to determine whether indeed you deserve to be termed as someone who is married. But Kevin Doe there, who is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, putting it out clearly that if at all you need to be recognized when it comes now to the sharing of matrimonial property, then you have to be under the recognized marriages here in Kenya. Of course, he's talking about that particular law is that he talked about the law being compressed into one from the many acts of marriage to one act of marriage that now recognizes different types of marriage: the Hindu marriage, the Christian marriage, the customary marriage, the Muslim marriage. Just those are the marriage recognized by the Kenyan law. If at all you happen to be out of that particular bracket of marriages, then Kevin Doe says it's upon time that you fall under those 4 types of marriages. There is nothing that the court recognizes such as cohabitation or staying for a long period of time as husband and wife. The court can only rescue at some point when it presumes that you are married from the testimonials of people that saw you together, and also the period of time that the both of you stay together. Remember, that is the family law that we are talking about in regards to the marriage process here in Kenya. This is CAC TV Partnership Week, and this is Legal Thursday as well, where we're talking matters to do with the law, justice, and legal affairs, of course, to educate you and help you and learn the laws that govern you. And remember, it is also the week that you can also become our partner and be with us in terms of viewership and also in terms of your support. And in regards to that, you can also keep on pushing your support for the CAC TV fraternity through the paybill number that is will be scrolling right at the bottom of your screen. That is 4019613 with your name as the account name as partner, and become our partner. You can also send in your feedback through our SMS number, that is 011220044. Remember, we are streaming live as well on YouTube and Facebook. You can also follow this particular program and leave your comment there, and we will be able to sample it as we continue this program. Remember, we have packed discussions for you in the subsequent in our subsequent programming, as we seek to make you understand different types of laws that govern you in this particular state. And moving on, in matters to do with family law, I want us to talk about the divorce process. Now, we've talked about marriage process. How do you get married? What does the law recognize as marriage? But then, despite marriage being a life partnership, then there comes a time when people now need to separate under compelling reasons or circumstances, and that is what we define as divorce. But what exactly does the law define divorce as? Because we may talk about divorce, you may have your own understanding of what divorce is, but that is what the law terms as divorce. And despite the notion that a divorce can happen in a fortnight, then you may be wrong, because the law does not recognize a one-time divorce. It is a process. It is a long process. The courts get to a point where they need to prove indeed that you want to divorce. And this is a discussion that I also had with the advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Kevin Doho, and we talked about the divorce process after the marriage, and this is what he had to say about the divorce process in Kenya. At this point, how can we say that the divorce process is stipulated in the Kenyan law?
The Kenyan law has provided for divorce proceedings under the Marriage Act number 4 of 2014. It has a section on matrimonial causes such as divorce, annulment, and separation, mostly to resolve those types of disputes which arise during the relationship of marriage. When you seek for divorce, usually at least 3 years after marriage, if you have celebrated it under the Part 4 of the Marriage Act, which is civil marriages. But for the other types of marriages, you have to go through a certain process. For example, for customary marriage, the Marriage Act provides that first you have to go through traditional dispute resolution mechanisms in your community before a court can be seized of jurisdiction to determine the dispute or the divorce petition. For Christian marriages, most of the time you find you go to the church, and the church has its own dispute resolution mechanism on mediation or taking care of the relationship so it doesn't break down. For Muslims, the Marriage Act provides that it's only Sharia law which applies. Obviously, Sharia law is the law of talaq, which is repeating the 3 words: I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. Then you get the divorce. So it's governed under the Islamic rules, under Sharia law. For Hindu marriages, you have first to establish the grounds on which you want to rely on divorce. For example, you'll find either you were not aware that you are within the prohibited levels of relationships. For example, a cousin or nephew or something like that. Also, the Marriage Act provides for Hindu marriages various other grounds, such as when one of the parties has been convicted for rape, sodomy, bestiality, then we can be able now to be in a position as under Hindu law to file for divorce. The special thing about Hindu law is that part of the Marriage Act governing Hindu law is when one of the parties converts out of that religion, then you can petition for divorce. The other grounds are common between Christian, civil, and Hindu, are where a party deserts the other for at least 3 years, where there is what you call idolatry, where we have things to do with the relationship as irretrievably broken down, and convictions. For example, if you are convicted for more than 7 years, one party is convicted for more than 7 years or life, the other party can apply to have can petition for divorce.
Now, assuming that a person wants to file a divorce, where do they begin from, and where does that divorce end, and the entire process? Can we just define the entire process on where it begins and where it ends?
Under the Marriage Act, the court that is seized with divorce proceedings is a resident magistrate's court, unless the dispute involves property which is worth much more, or the complexity of the issues are very complex. For example, where you have high net worth individuals, but you start at the magistrate's court. You file for, if you go to your lawyer who prepares a petition of divorce, then it is filed in court. Once it's filed in court, the court may set aside the hearing of that petition for maximum of 6 months, as it investigates the issues being raised and also tries to get the parties to reconcile. Then from there you go to the hearing, where one of the parties is alleging the petition for divorce, and the other can either choose to not file a response, or just file a response. Either maybe it's a wife who has filed for divorce, and the husband is challenging that there are no grounds for divorce. Once the judge hears both sides, the magistrate hears both sides, he'll make a decision. That decision will, if he's satisfied, he will grant not divorce but a decree nisi. So a decree nisi is a grant saying, yes, the court agrees with you that there should be divorce, but you have to, before you get the final divorce, you have to go maybe 3-4 months, then you come back for a final decree that now declares you divorced. So between the decree nisi and the final decree, you have separation. So you stay apart, and then after that, when the court is satisfied that you people are not coming back together, it will now give you a final decree declaring you divorced. That means that the marriage has come to an end.
All right, and that is Kevin Doe, who is an advocate of the High Court, outlining what the divorce process looks like. And as you've heard, it's not quite an easy process, because if at all you need to divorce through the courts under the recognized marriages here in Kenya, then it is a process. The courts must prove that indeed there should be a divorce. It's not a matter of one person decision, but the court puts each and every person in that particular marriage under the law, so that they can be able to prove their case, and the case cannot continue if at all both parties are not part of the proceeding. And that is what Kevin Doe has outlined there, of course, giving some reasons and compelling reasons as to why a marriage can come to an end under the divorce process. That is, if one of the partners has been convicted for more than 7 years of life imprisonment, then one of the parties in that particular marriage can apply, or rather can petition for a divorce process, which is a compelling reason that the court recognizes as a ground to annul that particular marriage, as well as if someone has been deserted for 3 years. Desertion meaning that if you have disappeared from your partner for 3 years, then they are eligible enough, to be able to file a petition seeking a divorce from you. And also matters to do with adultery. The law is very clear, does not recognize anything such as adultery, and if at all that is one of the reasons why one is petitioning for a divorce, then the court listens. But now the burden of proof remains on whether you can prove adultery against your partner, so that the court can now move and say that indeed there happened adultery, and now we can give a go ahead for this particular divorce. So you understand that divorce is a process that is court involving, it's a process that is law involving. It takes so much time, and that's why you find it's very difficult for you to be able to wake up one day and say that you have divorced. And in that entire discussion of that particular episode, Kevin Doe, the advocate of the High Court of Kenya, goes ahead and outlines why you cannot just wake up one day and decide that you're going to divorce your partner, because you need to engage the law if at all that marriage followed what is recognized in the Kenyan law as marriage. And that is matters to do with the divorce process. Of course, if you feel that your relationship is is broken as well, you can go ahead and, you know, petition for a divorce. That is matters to do with the divorce. Of course, family law, the marriage acts, they are defining what we recognize as marriage and what we recognize as divorce in regards to that. Hoping that you've been able to understand just in a glimpse of what is marriage and divorce. Remember, those episodes are on our social media pages on Facebook at CAC TV Kenya and on YouTube at CAC TV Kenya, so you can just go in there and just search Know Your Laws. Then you're able to get the episode that you want to watch. If at all you want to watch it from the start to the end, it's a long episode that can be able to educate you and help you and learn some of the law concepts. And just moving on to yet the last bit of this, you know, particular discussion in regards to the law on alternative dispute resolution and also property purchase. I want us to talk about the commercial law in property purchase as a part of our, you know, final bit of this particular session. And property purchase is one thing that is a daily activity. But what do you understand about property purchase? You can watch this particular clip. I had a discussion with an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Sam Wakabu Junge, and this is what he said in regards to property purchase. What can someone consider as a property to purchase?
Okay. Now, initially, before a law called the Immovable Properties was enacted, most people were thinking about, when you talk about property, most people are thinking about land. But then with coming into effect of what we call the Immovable Properties Act, the term property was extended to involve things like cars, because car is also a property. Some people actually even buy what has been cultivated on land, so that is property. So when you talk about property, it can generally be classified into two: immovable property and movable property. Movable property is something that can be moved. Now we are talking about a vehicle that can be moved from one place to the other. Then there is what we call the immovable property. That is something that can't be moved. When we talk about land, that is something that is fixed. So there is land and any other development that might be on that particular property, because as you've seen, especially in Nairobi, people are doing a lot of apartments. So when you talk even about a unit within that particular development, that is also a property. So property, we can say in brief that it can be said to be movable and movable property. So the first step in buying any property involves identification. So the moment you identify a property, then there are some aspects like searches. So the moment you identify a property and maybe you discuss the terms, the other process will be conducting searches. Because now, as we've seen, there are some properties which we can say are not genuine, and some people, especially in Kenya, I think you've seen people being charged with fraud. So the first thing that you have to do when you're buying any property is to conduct a search. A search, now when it involves a property like land, that means you have to visit the respective registry, confirm that indeed the person who is indicated in the title also has the records at the lands office. The moment you have done a search, the next step, most people actually hurry and maybe pay a deposit, but you can't pay a deposit if someone is yet to sign an agreement. So then people sit down, agree on the terms of the purchase. So once the terms are agreeable to everyone, you go to the next step of signing an agreement. The moment now you sign an agreement, the agreement normally stipulates what is to be expected for this property to be transferred in your name. So in this sale agreement, amongst the things that people agree on are maybe on the amount that is payable, at what point this amount will be paid, and also on something called the completion date. The completion date, basically, if I may explain it, is more like the date on which payment is supposed to be done. So the process, in simple, it involves conducting the searches, doing the sale agreement, signing the sale agreement. Then thereafter, the parties get the consents, the documents which are required. The other party is supposed also to maybe ensure that he has the money to pay the balance of the purchase price. Then once every party has those documents, then the transfer process takes place. What I'll say to anyone who is intending on buying a property here in Kenya is that what I've consistently said about due diligence. Due diligence is very important. Apart from due diligence, framing of the transaction, that is the sale agreement itself, it's also very important to ensure that the transaction captures your aspirations and also the aspirations. If you are buying a property, it covers your aspirations and also the aspirations of someone who is selling. And the reason why I say that it's very important to also look into the aspect of the sale agreement is because this sale agreement informs what is to be done. Even let's say, because you've had instances whereby someone maybe might be buying a property, might be selling a property today, but since today he had a particular challenge, tomorrow someone else approaches them with maybe a bigger offer than yours. Now you see, in such a case, maybe you've already given your deposit. You see, in such a case, that means that if at all, depending with how you framed your agreement, you might end up, you can't lose definitely your deposit because the expectation is that such a person is supposed to refund your money. But then there's also the time value for money, because you could have maybe agreed that this transaction is going to take 3 months. If I give you 500,000 today, tomorrow that 500,000, if I could have made use of that particular money, then maybe I'll have obtained more money from it. So there's also that aspect of the sale agreement. So it's very important to first conduct your due diligence and ensure that the sale agreement itself is well framed in such a way that you are well protected. Because for us as advocates, what we normally say is that for any transaction, it should ensure that both parties are covered. It should ensure that the person who is selling the property is well covered, and also the person who is buying that particular property is well covered. So apart from that issue, then there's also the other documentation that you have to ensure that they're in order before you proceed with the transaction. So what I'll say is that due diligence is very important. Also, approaching a law firm is very important so as to capture your aspirations that is in the sale agreement, and also so that the advocate can also be able to structure your transaction in a way that is favorable to both parties, and also to ensure that the transaction goes to the tail end and the title comes in your name.
All right, and that is matters to do with property purchase. What do you need to know about the process of purchasing a property? You've heard right there from the source and the advocate of the High Court of Kenya guiding you and telling you that property purchase is just a process like any other that you need to follow due diligence and involve the people in the know of the law so that you can be able to be in safe hands while purchasing a property, be it immovable or movable properties, land or cars. All need to follow the Kenyan law so that you can be able to be in safe hands. And now switching gears to yet another form of the law is matters to do with the alternative dispute resolution. What do you know about alternative dispute resolution? Of course, highlight of the alternative dispute of resolution is the major ones have been mediation and arbitration. So among the two, what do you know about the mediation is one of the alternative dispute resolution, but also arbitration is one form of alternative dispute resolution that has been used, for a very long time, and it has also been gaining traction in matters to resolving disputes, especially commercial disputes. I sat down with an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and this is what he had to say in regards, to arbitration as a way of alternative dispute resolution.
I will define arbitration as a method of alternative dispute resolution mechanism where parties enter an agreement, because most of these arbitration processes are governed by an agreement between the parties. So parties might find themselves in a situation where they have a commercial agreement between themselves that includes an arbitration clause. In that case, then they are saying that between the two of us, if any dispute arises between the two of us, then we will refer that dispute to a third party, and that third party will have the full powers and the full tenure to determine that particular dispute on behalf of the parties. So basically, arbitration is governed by an agreement between the parties, and those parties they devolve these issues between them to the powers of a third party, most of the time an individual.
Arbitration. What are some of the cases that can be used in arbitration?
We have mostly commercial disputes, right? And most of them are commercial disputes or cases involving parties from different jurisdictions. I think those are the most common that I have seen referred to arbitration. The other one that is gaining a lot of momentum in terms of being referred to arbitration are usually construction disputes. And part of the reasons why cases will be referred to arbitration usually is most of the time actually because of the complexity of the matters. So you'll find that if you put an arbitration dispute, if you put a construction dispute before a judge, sometimes they don't appreciate the nitty-gritties that come with construction, right? The judge is more aligned towards the law, right? But if you look at issues relating to arbitration, some of them are not even issues relating to the law. And for this reason, the parties then decide to say, let us refer this dispute to somebody who has the speciality of that particular field of work. So if, for example, we are dealing with business purchase, if we are dealing with taxation, if we are dealing with construction, like I've said, most of those things don't just require knowledge of the law. They also require knowledge of that field, perhaps engineering, quantity surveying, so that you're able to say, if this person brings this amount of, say, materials, then they will be able to conclude that house. So you'll find a lot of construction disputes. And as time has gone by, you get to a situation where several kinds of agreements, especially commercial agreements and construction agreements, they naturally place themselves in the ambit of arbitration by including arbitration clauses. I think those are the ones that come at the top of my mind very much, but a wide range of disputes can be referred to arbitration. Perhaps the only limitations that I would have to mind are disputes that involve criminal elements, right? So in that case, then, if, for example, you have a commercial dispute that has fraud and criminal elements to it, those could be quite difficult. But any other disputes could easily be referred to arbitration. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that despite the laid down principles in Section 12 of the Act, parties still have leeway, because that is one of the objectives of arbitration, to give parties leeway to be able to determine a dispute in the manner that suits them best, but within certain laid out principles that are laid down in the Acts. Yeah.
And because you've talked about a well laid down process in choosing an arbitrator, let's talk about this case whereby we see a scenario where an arbitrator has been selected by one of the parties and the other party rejects. And of course, the party that has rejected doesn't inform the other party that they have rejected that particular arbitrator. Does the party that has selected the arbitrator have the jurisdiction now to proceed with the matter with the arbitrator of their choice?
One aspect about arbitration that really comes out very clearly is, despite the fact that arbitration is an open process for the parties to determine, there is also leeway to allow some intervention of the court in a few circumstances. And again, the good thing about it, like I'm saying, is most of these things are found in the Act. So in that case, then I will be looking at, or I probably will be looking at the provisions of Section 23, which determines situations where the court can determine, the court can interfere in certain limited circumstances. For example, one of the limited circumstances listed under Section 23 is issues relating to appointment of the arbitrator, right? So if parties have disagreed on the appointment of the arbitrator, then one of the parties can refer the matter to court.
Can the High Court reject that particular agreement by any arbitrator in case one party moves to appeal about the agreement?
Yes, if one party moves and makes that application to set aside the award and the High Court is satisfied that those principles set aside in Section 35 of the Act have been met, then the High Court will not hesitate to set that aside. But one thing that I know, or from the way it has happened practically, is sometimes that situation of setting aside the award opens more of a Pandora's box than it helps resolve the issue. Because then one of the parties moves to the Court of Appeal and seeks for leave to appeal against the High Court, and then the Court of Appeal will determine whether the other party sometimes even says the Court of Appeal should not be interfering with the decisions of the High Court, they are supposed to be final, and the whole cycle continues.
All right, and that is matters to do with the alternative dispute resolution, of course, measuring on arbitration there, and the different outlines there being regarded as what could be a solution to commercial disputes. Of course, arbitration is mostly used in commercial resolution. We'll be talking also matters to do with copyright and music laws in our first live discussion this morning. This is Legal Thursday because today we are going to talk on matters to do with law, justice and legal affairs, and also we are going to talk matters to do with family laws. In our subsequent discussions, we've made a glimpse of what family laws is, but we'll be talking in depth in the course of this particular programming today on Legal Thursday, as well as defining every aspect of the commercial law. So you need to stay where you are and look out for that particular discussion in the coming few hours. But right about now, remember you can also be part of our partner because this is CAC TV Partnership Week. Through support of your viewership and also your financial support, you can be able to check there. There is a paybill number that is scrolling there. That is 4019613. That is a paybill number, and the account number is partner, so you can be able to be part of our partner. You can also send in your feedback at our SMS number, that is 0111220044, and I'll be reading in the course of this particular programming because we are talking matters to do with law, justice and legal affairs in the course of this particular day because it is Legal Thursday. We take a very short commercial break, but when I return back, we'll also now be taking a glimpse of the news bites, what is making headlines in the words of news this particular morning. But for now, good morning.
Celestine Kemunto. I'm taking a bachelor's in business information technology. I chose ZTech because first of all, ZTech has been ranked among the best in ICT, and I thought it will be best. It will be best for my course. First of all, there are so many ICT labs in ZTech University, which enables students, mostly those who are pursuing IT courses, to get to know more about their courses, of which the labs have so many computers which have Ethernet, which is easier for them to browse. If I were given a chance to choose another university, I'll definitely choose ZTech University.
Apply today. ZTech University. Invent your future.
Thika Motor Dealers, the #1 dealer for Isuzu brand motor vehicles in conjunction with Family Bank, now have a mouth-watering deal for PCEA churches and their sponsored schools. Thika Motor Dealers are now offering up to 100% financing for buses ranging from the 25-seater, 33-seater, 46-seater and 67-seater. For more information, visit TMD dealer shops in Thika, Ruaka, Karatina, Athi River and Machakos, or even call us on 0800-720-797.
Thika Motor Dealers, your trusted logistics partner.
We protect what is important to you so you can focus on accomplishing your life goals. At Pima Insurance Agency, we cover motor vehicles, personal accidents, medical and educational policy insurance countrywide. Our offices are located at Franchise House, First Floor, Moi Avenue in Mombasa. You can link up with us on our social media pages at Pima Insurance Agency on Facebook and Instagram. For more information, call us on 0724 017 913 or 0734 691 090 or 0725 725 319. Your satisfaction, our joy. We protect what is important to you so you can focus on accomplishing your life goals. At PMI Insurance Agency, we cover motor vehicles, personal accidents, medical and educational policy insurance countrywide. Our offices are located at Franchise House, First Floor, Moi Avenue in Mombasa. You can link up with us on our social media pages at PMI Insurance Agency on Facebook and Instagram. For more information, call us on 0724 017 913 or 0734 691 090 or 0725 725 319. Your satisfaction, our joy.
I've been together with CAC TV. We've been working together. It has not been an easy journey, but I thank God because of the team we've been working with, and it has been a very resilient team, very focused, and people who are determined to see to it that CAC TV stands and continues to thrive. And that team is the one which has caused CAC TV to be what it is. And I want to thank all of you for this.
To partner with us, send your financial support to pay bill number 401-9613, account partner. Pay bill number 401-9613, account partner.
All right, welcome back to Legal Thursday in this week of CAC TV partnership, and we've been talking on matters to do with law, of course, elaborating some of the major laws in regards to family law, commercial laws, and we'll also be talking about copyright and music laws later on in the program. But right about now, I want to introduce my colleague right here in studio. Dennis Monene has come to join me in this particular studio with the news update at this hour. There is so much that is happening in regards to, news-wise, and the day is yet to break. But Dennis Monene is here and has an update of what perhaps has transpired and what has been happening. Dennis, bring us to speed with what we expect to unravel this morning in regards to news, and what do we know up until this hour?
Right, just like you've said, the day is just about to break, and we have a lot that has been happening over, since yesterday till now, and yet we're still expecting much more to happen by the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Well, just as is that we've been having issues to do with IEBC and the issues to do with the electoral materials. Yesterday, IEBC received the first batch of the electoral materials that are supposed to be used in the forthcoming general elections. And to that connection, Raila Odinga now demands a meeting with IEBC of a parallel result forms. That is the Azimio la Umoja, one Kenya candidate, Raila Odinga, has some claims that maybe he needs to have some meeting to sit down with Wafula Chebukati and other committees just to decide and know what is happening in the area of elections, or even in the preparation of elections. I don't know what you have to say about that issue.
I think the issue in contention here by the Azimio la Umoja, that to say they're now demanding a sort of a meeting with the IEBC. It is in regards to the Form 34As and 34Bs. Of course, those are names popular when now we begin the election period. Why the IEBC has printed an extra, extra set of declaration forms of results. You understand that Form 34A and 34B are the forms that will be used to announce the final results of a particular polling station. So that is the matter in contention of the by the IEBC. Of course, having received yesterday having received yesterday the first, rather the second batch of the ballot papers, the contention is why they are printing more from 34As and from 34Bs. That is a big contention. I think it's a story that is making now headlines in regards to that.
Yes, you remember also this Form 34 A and B. They created a lot of hiccups during the previous general elections, and they were the point of contention and the point of discussion during the rigging claims that happened in the 2017 elections. Now, just to move on, is that now right now, the two candidates, that is the two frontliners, that is Raila Odinga and William Ruto of Kenya Kwanza, are now planning to just wind up their political campaigns, keeping in mind that the elections are just around the corner. Well, and in this week, July 28th, Raila Odinga of Azimio la Umoja, you can see, is highlighted in this Daily Nation newspaper. From July 28th till August 6th, Raila Odinga is expected to visit Nakuru. 29th is expected to visit Machakos. July 30th is expected to visit Narok. July 31st is expected to visit Eldoret Kapsabet. And then August 1st to August 6th. August 1st is in Kiambu, and August 2nd is in Kisii. August 3rd is in Kakamega. August 4th is in Kisumu. August 5th, he's in Mombasa, and then he concludes the journey here in Nairobi. Then
just looking at what the where DP will be visiting, you can see the Daily Nation talking about on July 28th, the Deputy President William Ruto will be in the Mount Kenya region in the counties of Meru, Embu, and Tharaka Nithi as well. While talking about July 29th, the Deputy President will be in Nandi, Busia, and Bungoma counties. July 30th in Garissa, and July 31st he'll be in Vihiga and Kakamega. August 1st, which is very significant because it is the last week before we get to the August 9 polls. Of course, knowing that their campaigns will be done 3 days earlier than 3 days earlier before the particular election. On August 1st, DP Ruto will return back to its backyard in Uasin Gishu and Baringo counties. August 2nd, he'll be in Laikipia, Nyandarua, and Nakuru. August 3rd, he'll be in Nyeri and Murang'a. August 4th, Kirinyaga and Kiambu. While in August 5th and August 6th, the DP will campaign in Nairobi for the last stretch of the presidential race 2022. What do you make of, Dennis, what do you make of, the last 2 days significant ones? The Deputy President William Ruto will campaign on 5th and 6th in Nairobi, while the ODM party leader Raila Odinga will campaign on 5th and 6th. 5th he will be in Mombasa, and 6th in Nairobi. What do you make of the last 2 days structure of their political campaigns?
Well, Nairobi is a determinant county when it comes to electoral polls, or rather the results, election results come 9th of August after we've done the voting. And you very well know that Raila Odinga currently, as we speak, his popularity in Nairobi is at a very high rate compared to Dr. William Ruto, the Deputy President. And well, if you just look at how these guys have just organized their political rallies, or rather their political trails, that this August, the last week of August, then you'll see that Deputy President William Ruto is focused majorly on the areas of his popularity. If you look at Uasin Gishu, Laikipia, and then Upande wa Mlima. Then if you look at Raila Odinga's last week, you'll also see that he has also majored on the areas of his major popularity, that is Kisii, Kakamega, Kisumu, and other counties.
I think it's the last final home stretch for the campaigns, and we wait to see what unravels, in that particular presidential race, because all is clear now that the August 9th is the day that is meant for us to transition, and unless otherwise, August 9th is the last day. But something important to note is that the campaigns will end 3 days earlier before the August 9th polls. So I think that is what we'll be looking and watch out for the next few days that will be coming.
Yeah, let's see and wait who comes in the next government, and whoever takes to the next government of course, we'll take him to be our 5th president. Now, moving on is that now Kenya Army has a new boss, whereby Commander Lieutenant General Peter Mbogo Njiru was sworn in yesterday to take over from General Walter Koipaton Raila, who precedes retirement. Well, Peter Mbogo was just an aide-camp to Kibaki, the late president, and Uhuru. Well, let's just have a look of that story, whereby General Peter Mbogo Njiru, he was actually, the whole process was Uhuru Kenyatta oversaw the whole process. And actually, I believe that Peter Mbogo Njiru will be the next boss for Kenya Army. He's actually from the Kenya Defense Forces. Let's have a look.
Right. Of military, and that is the event that happened yesterday, where the
Republic of Kenya, that I will obey, preserve, protect, and defend this Constitution of Kenya and all other laws of the Republic, and that I will protect and uphold the sovereignty, integrity and dignity of the people of Kenya. So help me God.
That's Commander General Peter Mbogo Njiru, who is now actually will be turning out to be the new boss for the Kenya Army. Now, moving on is that now the residents from Kuresoi have been urged by the police to give out names of gangsters or people who are just labeled to be gangsters. Do not hide. They've been urged not to hide the names or just keep the names to themselves. Because if you remember, like places like Nakuru, we've had cases of violence and insecurity. Now, these residents have just been asked to give out names whenever you have maybe, or if you just know of a gangster or even these guys, robbers, whatever, not to keep the names for themselves and give this information to the police so that they can help in stabilizing peace in the country, also this time as we head to the general elections.
It's quite significant because when it comes to the general election, the peace calls, and that move, whether it works or not, I think it's a huge call, because this moment the gangster groups have been on the limelight and put on notice by the Ministry of Interior and Security. But hopefully that is the way that will resolve that particular issue of the gangster rising in the political season, and the residents being urged to name the gangsters by the police is something that is something to watch about, whether the residents will indeed do exactly that or they will do something else.
We don't want a situation whereby something happens, or maybe these gangsters tend they just tend to cause peace instability in your area, and then you start saying the police didn't do this and this, you see. So yeah, let's have a watch and let's have a look of what they were told to do.
Tukua na tukasambaza namba za security agents ambao tumekuwa nao. Tumesambaza pia manamba ya simu ya village elders na nyumba 10, kwa sababu operations za usiku zitaendelea, na zitaendelea tu kwa wakati kwa watu wa Kuresoi North ama watu wa usalama wa Kuresoi North. Tutakuwa na joint operations between us and Molo, so that we come this area ikuwe salama wakati wa uchaguzi.
Tunaposhika watu pale, watu wa makosa mbalimbali, akiwa mwizi ataitwe mwizi, akiwa bakaji wataitwe bakaji, asiitwe kura yangu.
Well, peace is important, Sambo, you know.
I've heard that statement there coming out strongly. Of course, I think that is the the hierarchy of commands that have descended down to the sub-county commanders, the chiefs, that tell us who is, or rather who you think is a gangster. I think that is the story that we need also to follow up.
Yes, yes. Now, moving on forward is that now a family in Narok actually wants a teacher who actually beat a class 5 pupil. That is, the daughter was actually 11 years old till she broke her arm just because of attaining low marks in an examination. Somewhere, I don't know how you pick, how you think of this story or this issue of, teachers giving corporal punishment to students or pupils just because of attaining low marks in examinations.
I think because it's also legal Thursday, it's also good to say that that is against the law, because the government of Kenya put on hold corporal punishment in schools, and I think that is significant, because if at all the law has to be followed, then that teacher is found capable of committing a criminal offense. That is, torture, that is violence. So especially for a minor, that is something that can give you more than 35 years in jail. So I don't know if at all the family will seek justice, then they are in the line and the course of getting justice, because the law prohibits such acts of violence on minors. Because this is legal Thursday, we have to talk it out in that way.
All right, let's have a look and see, or just see what transpired the situation.
Alifeel vibaya na ashafuta huyo mwalimu, hayuko tena. Kama tutadili na mwalimu, tunadili na yeye akiwa nje ya shule. So hata nilikuwa nauliza, kwani kama mwalimu wako huko ndani, mbona hiyo shule isichukulie hatua? Yeye mwenyewe waongee, then kama ni kwenda police station wampeleke. Wakasema tuende tuongee na huyo mwalimu. Mwalimu akasema watatupea 50,000 tunyamazie, juu ikienda mbele atafutwa na career yake itaisha.
Indeed, it's an emotional story.
It's quite an emotional story there, and I hope the family will be able to seek justice, because that is a criminal offense. That is, there's something I was talking to a lawyer and saying, matters to do with children, the law is very ruthless. It doesn't think twice, and I think that is something they should follow up and ensure that justice for the young child has been found, because that is brutal.
Yeah.
And quite an emotional there, and I hope they get justice.
Of course, you remember the other incidents that happened in Kisumu, or was it in Kisumu or it's Homa Bay? I think it's Kisumu. Yeah, that student or that pupil who had actually been punished by a teacher just because of scoring. I think it's an issue and it's a case. These are things that have started raising at a very high rate in this country, whereby corporal punishment is not allowed. But I think teachers just go on forward and start, practicing the corporal punishment, of which it's not allowed. We heard CS Magoha saying that that teacher measures would be taken. I don't know how the case is up to now, but some will let us know how these laws work, because today is on a legal Thursday. Now, at that point, Sambu, I want to leave you. You continue with the legal Thursday.
All right, and that is where we come to the end of the News Bites session. Thank you so much, Dennis Munene, for coming here and giving us and bringing us up to speed with what we expect to be breaking down in the course of the day. This is the Legal Thursday, where we're going to talk matters to do with law, justice, and legal affairs, of course, to educate you and help you and learn the laws that govern you. And coming shortly after a few hours will be our first live discussion here in studio on matters to do with copyright and music laws. So you need to watch out and understand, what does copyright mean in the Kenyan law? What does the law say in regards to copyright? Copyright involving matters to do with photography, videography, music. In case you have done any form of art, how are you able to safeguard that art legally so that it can always remain to be yours? We'll be talking matters to do with copyright in a short while, but following up shortly will be some of our episodes that we've been discussing in the first hour of this session in regards to the law on marriage, the law on divorce, and the property purchase, alternative dispute resolution. Those episodes will be coming to you shortly, and then we'll be back with our live discussion. Remember, this is Legal Thursday, and this is Kank TV Partnership Week, where we seek your partnership to become part of our larger family as we continue to give you good programming and also give you programs that befit your satisfaction. And remember, to be part of our family and to also be part of our partner, it is for you to be able to view our programs, to follow us on all our social media pages on YouTube and Facebook at Kank TV Kenya, and also to to financially be part of CAC TV through the pay bill number that is 4019613 is a pay bill number scrolling on your screen, and remember the account name is for you to become our partner. We take a very short commercial break, and then we'll be back with subsequent episodes of Legal Thursday, and then we'll be back with our live discussion this morning. My name is Chris Sambo, so stay tuned, don't go anywhere.